Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today on the Bulletin, I'm delighted to be joined by Lawrence Conley. Lawrence, welcome back to the studio.
It's great to be here. Doesn't seem so long ago since we're celebrating the win in Dingwall in here.
Yes, it was an emphatic victory. The best of the season?
Oh, without doubt. Starting to play as a team, starting to play as a unit, just looked so much more comfortable with each other.
I think when you're looking at that, and then obviously you've got the games are going to be thick and fast. It didn't help that we've got two fixtures to catch up on anyway due to the ball and goalie scandal. But we're playing in a number of tournaments this season. We're playing in 5 different tournaments. The games are going to come in thick and fast. You've got to use the squad. But on the back of a victory like that, going into the St Mirren game, how do you line up?
Keep it the same. Keep it the same. Barkas is our number one. Those three centre halves, especially second half. First half, a couple of times there's a wee bit of gap between them and the keeper, but as the game went on, that just disappeared. You're thinking, we need to get that consistency as a unit. Understanding's when we're going to come like we're playing each other. Frimpong on the right, the wee man's just on fire just now. James Forrest never lets you down. You can play him anywhere and he would just do the job for you, I think that's what Tommy Burns used to say, that should be your answer. Where would you play? Play anywhere for Celtic. I think that's James Forrest's attitude. Mm-hmm. Cracking player, cutting in for the left, deadly right foot. Your midfield, I would keep it the same. It's another area we need to get some consistency, and we keep saying, Cham's a Rolls Royce of a player. Well, you need to play him to get him out. That he needs to be playing. We've got Brown, McGregor, Cham, and up front, Eddie's always going to start, isn't he? And goal a game, Alban Ajeti, he's goal a game, isn't he? And if I'm Klimala, let's see, 2 goals in 104 minutes worth of football. You're kind of going a goal every 51 minutes. I've got options. But I'd keep it the same. We've got a strong bench now. Keep that team the same and just say more of the same. See,
when I hear that terminology that he's a Rolls Royce of a player, I might have misinterpreted that, because I thought if you're a Rolls Royce of a player, you're top end quality, but you only come out every now and again. And I think that's a wee bit like Encham. I think the term's meant to mean that you're different class, But I think of it a wee bit differently, because I know that Encham has the ability and the skill and the talent and the technique. I don't think we always see it. But I'm not saying we didn't see it against Ross County.
I think we don't always see it, but some of that is due to stop nature of his career. Mm-hmm. He's old enough now. It's not like he's not 18, 19 where he's needing protection. Sometimes, things dip a bit. We need to be playing him, and he needs to know he's week in, week out. Knowing Brown and McGregor, getting to know his team. I think he needs a run of games. Some players just need that run of games to get the best out of them. It's like, I suppose if you want to take it back to Rolls Royce, if you left it in the garage for 12 years and then just pulled it and wanted to drive it, is it going to perform its best? Everything needs to be turning over, doesn't it? You need to turn the engine. You need to be opening it up, giving it Italian service, getting it going through full throttle.
Listen, I don't know how we got into the subject of vehicles, but let's stick to that subject, right? Because a couple of the people who might have seized up are Tom Rogic and Lee Griffiths. And we did speak about it yesterday with Kevin Graham, whereby I believe that we could be in for a bit of a bonus if we manage that situation slightly differently. Now, what I mean by that, Lawrence, is we've got Tommy Rogic at 27. We thought he was gone. He's not. He's still here. Let's utilise him. Let's not try and find another club who are willing to pay £3 or £4 million for Tom Rogic. Let's utilise him in the Celtic side. We're going to need the depth of squad this season. And then Lee Griffiths, I guess, moves into my next point once I've given you what I think will be the starting lineup against St Mirren. And it's the cautionary tale of Anthony Stokes. And we'll talk about Anthony Stokes in just a moment and how his career is developing, if that's the right word. How do you think we can, if we can, utilise Tom Rogic and Lee Griffiths this season?
2 very different reasons why I suppose they've not been playing. I think Rogic's has always been start-stop. Doesn't help because away with Australia all the time. But for a player, his feet are like Velcro at times. Like 3-4 players round him, it's how would that ball sticking his toe?
The magnetic boots.
Mm-hmm. Curls them in. Big game player. When you need a goal, him coming on in the last 15, 20 minutes, he's a big game goal scorer. Mm-hmm. Griffiths is a phenomenal talent. It's just getting him up to fitness. But I think Griffiths is probably a bit unlucky now that we've got 2 absolute outstanding forwards in the team. You're going, it's not just you getting fit now. You're going to have to wait for your chance. And what was Paddy's there? 2 goals in 104 minutes of football. Goal every 52 minutes. You're kind of going, you might not even be third choice now if he keeps up that kind of form. You know, because Griffiths is 30 now. He's in a lot of part of his career.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mr. Law and so everyone knows that, you know, football's a business. Would we ever get a fee for him? You know, what kind of fee would we get? Whereas we might be looking at Klamala. Well, if he keeps developing at that rate, you know, he's £10 million plus. If he keeps developing at that rate, and you're kind of going, well, Griffiths, it's work hard, and it's, I think with Rogic, he needs a bit of game time. He needs to fall back in love with, I suppose, with Scottish football, because I think that was a bit of his stuff. He was a bit unhappy he wasn't playing, was the rumours. You know, he needs game time. So Rogic, yeah, it's midfield, you know, it's competitive, but we need to give him, I suppose, game time. At 27, he should be able to speak as a midfielder.
The way I look at Tom Rogic, and this is on the most basic of statistical terms, Lawrence, because I know the benefit of the sports science and the stats and the facts and the figures, and I don't, for a moment, ridicule them in any way, shape or form. But just in basic terms, Tom Rogic, in terms of his appearances, has played less games since Neil Lennon's come in. Now, some of that will be down to injury. I know there was a period last season where he was injured. Some of it will come down to recovery time if he's been away on international duty. But the biggest reason behind it may well be that Neil Lennon doesn't fancy him as a player. Do you think that might come into it? He didn't utilise him a great deal first time round. I remember him playing, he was drafted in against Morton in the infamous defeat at Celtic Park.
Penalty outside the box, or wasn't it a penalty?
So Tommy Rogic never played many games for Lennon first time round, and I know he was loaned out to try and get him game time because he was pushing to try and get into Australia's World Cup squad at that time. Could it just be a case of the fact Neil Lennon doesn't fancy him?
Could be. You could look at that midfield and go, well, who have we got? You know, who's he going to displace as a regular starter? And I don't see, you're looking at Tom going, you've got a long way to become that regular starter. A long way to go. Brownie's you know, Brownie, you're not going to drop him, are you? It's kind of, I think, heartbeat of the club just now. Best game of the season there. He's not even in contention for Brown's place, is he? So it's one of the 2 forward midfielders. Cal Maxdale did his play, you know. So that's not even up for debate. So Brown and Cal's place, Roger can play. So it's that one spare place in midfield. We're saying, well, Cham needs a run of games. You know, and Cham's definitely going to be a sellable asset, isn't he? I don't think. Yeah. You know, $4 million for Rogers. It's nothing compared to what you're going to get for Cham. Ryan Christie, well, he's going to be going for that space. We actually saw Mo Elanusi. Geez, that was the best 10, 15 minutes we got out. Playing as that forward midfield or forward. So you kind of go, there's a lot of competition for that place for Tom, and you're kind of going, well, I suppose we can't manage them as an individual. They're part of a team. And you can't just, all right, let's just manage Tom. You've got to manage everybody else that's going for that position in conjunction with it. You know, you're kind of going, right, we kind of go, right, everything's about getting Tom in the team. And I think maybe that's something that if he's unhappy that he's not playing, he needs to realise that there's other people not playing that are contributing.
He's a million miles away from being a first pick. Million miles. And I'm not suggesting we shoehorn him and Lee Griffiths in. But what I'm looking at, Lawrence, is this season, it's unique in that we still have Scottish Cup games to play from last season. So we're in 4 domestic competitions. We're still in the Europa League. So you need to utilise that squad. And we have trimmed the squad. I know we've brought in quality signings, but we've trimmed the squad if you look over the piece. And so players like Rogic and Griffiths, I still think they can contribute, but it's down to them. Because, you know, Griffiths comes back into first team squad, he's 4th choice striker at this moment in time.
Yeah, I think Griffiths is at a far higher level than Rogic. And I think he has been throughout his career. And he is a guy that you could go, you know, you could play all season. You would get a full season out of him. And his problem is he's got guys in front of him just now that's kind of, it's not just about what you're doing. You're going to have to wait for some non-performances before you're getting your chance. Now, if you're talking about managing it and going right in a cup game, well, we're going for another treble. You know, if we won last season's Scottish Cup, we'll be looking at another treble. So it's kind of one of those, going, do you really want to take risks in games when you're going, we're making history?
We're going for our fifth treble in a row.
Oh, Jock said it when he came over, when he came back to Celtic, back to the players, listen, it's all right about the heroes of the past, but you've got to make your own history.
Create your own.
And that's what this team's doing. Fifth treble in a row.
Fourth and fifth treble in a row. It's astonishing. It really is astonishing. And as I say, you go back to the fateful handball against Inverness Cali, and it could have been the sixth and seven. It could have been the sixth treble in 7 years, which is just mind blowing. But it is one of these things that I will keep bringing up because I'm not writing them off yet. I had written off Tom Rogic. I thought he was gone. But when you're looking at the competition for places in that position of the field, having Tom Rogic as part of that, brilliant, because it's a great dilemma for the manager to have.
He can definitely unlock defences. And we know we're going to face people that part defence. They'll narrow their pitch against us on occasion. So, your wingers aren't going to get the room to operate in. So you're going to need that kind of talent in the middle of the park behind the strikers. That's where you're going to have to get somebody that can keep it. Tom Rogic, if he comes on a few games in a row and he's doing stuff, he might then start taking a place for a first team. But he's definitely got undoubted talent that's going to create and score goals.
If they're fit, and by fit I mean they're fit enough to come off the bench because they're not going to start, right? You've got some players who, like Christie, would be match fit even though he didn't start against Ross County. You could step back in if necessary. Don't think he will, actually. If he's fit, if any of the two players are fit, do they get a place on the bench? Because we have been utilising that bench with some youth. Some youth have appeared on there. Sorrell's appeared on there. Do we bring in Griffiths if he's fit? Because we've got Klamala sitting there. Do we bring in Rogic if he's fit? Try and get him a few minutes?
I would say Griffiths is ahead of Rogic.
Right.
Because it looks like we're going to play with two strikers. Griffiths, on his game, he's scoring from anywhere. Yeah. So you're going, right, him and Paddy, it could be options that we need. The midfields, that position's a bit more congested for Tom Rogic to get space on the bench, isn't it? It's it comes back to going, well, there's a queue of people for that position and Lee's had obviously some illness recently, I think, which has been the biggest part of keeping him out and stopping him as on. But when he came back after his illness there, he was banging the goals in.
Yeah.
If that season hadn't been caught short, it goes with, because it was looking like Lee was going to score one or two a game. You're thinking, how many goals are you going to get out of almost half a season? He
was taking a lot of the burden off of Edward at that time as well, Lawrence. I know we now have a Jetty and that's a whole new dynamic. But at that time, I think Edward required that assistance. He needed Lee Griffiths to come in, noise up the defenders, because often the ball's coming to Edward, there's 2 and 3 around about him. That became a part of just about every performance. He's great at holding the ball up. He's also one with the sticky feet. He can start waltzing through them. But I think when Griffiths came in, he was good foil for Edward at the end of last season.
It's somebody to lay it off. And when you lay it off, how far out do you think Griffiths could score for?
Oh,
easily 30?
30, 35,
Could we push it to 40 maybe?
I mentioned you could probably pull a couple of goals from his back catalogue that are that far out, to be honest with you. He scored goals wherever he's gone. And I think when we look at, and by the way, I'm going to mention this because I got a bit of stick yesterday for failing to notice a couple of comments that came through about Luke O'Connell, because apparently we've not given him enough airtime. There's a situation at the moment where Tommy Rogic's transfer is broken down.
Yep.
It may be difficult for us to get a decent fee for him when you look at the lack of games that he's played, right? I know he's an Australian internationalist and he's had great success with Celtic. So do you then bring him back in, treat him as a first team player, and if so, once he's fit enough, he takes his seat on the bench? Similarly to Griffiths, and the reason I'm saying this, we're all buoyant after the Ross County game, and rightly so. But we've already seen this season games where Celtic haven't been firing on all cylinders. We've seen games where Celtic have come up against the packed defence and we've not been able to cut through it as easily as we did against Hamilton in the first day of the season. The obvious one's the Kilmarnock game. But we also had a similar situation against Dundee United, right? And it was a brilliant bit of play from Scott Brown, actually, the lead-up play that crafted and created a chance that eventually was scored from via a Yeti or new hero. We're playing St Mirren, and I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm not expecting actually to go out there and win 4 or 5-0. I know that Jimmy Goodwin will have good organisation in that team. all the men behind the ball. The pitch is a wee bit tighter. So we could be again in a situation where we're trying to unlock a defence and we're trying to unlock a defence. And it's always good to have those creative players like Tom Rogic, like Lee Griffiths, the type of players we were crying out for against Kilmarnock. Because as much as I love Ncham, I still don't think he's got that consistency of performance. So we've seen occasions in the past where we're failing to unlock a defence, like the Kilmarnock situation. I think we've shored up the defence at our end by bringing in Duffy. We'll talk about Duffy as well during this podcast. I'm just thinking it would be good to have one of these players on the bench, Lawrence, because, you know, we are utilising the substitutes. 20 minutes to go. Let's say it's still tight. There's still a packed defence. We just need that spark.
You kind of touched that. Scott Brown crafted the opposition against Dundee United. There's something about some players can take any game by the scruff of the neck and they can cause things to happen. I think we've got one in Shane Duffy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think Griffiths and Rogic would also fall into that. I'm not saying they do it every game, but there has been examples in the past where they're the game changer. You know what I mean? It's their attitude, their drive. So definitely you need that. You do. But you're going to have to explain to the person you're dropping their favour.
Yeah. So who did we have? Sorrow on the bench. We had the young centre half as well.
Yep.
So I think when you're looking at the lineup, they would be your two casualties to allow Tom Rogic and Lee Griffiths. And this is my only concern about tomorrow night. We'll be covering the game. Our match day coverage involves pre-match, half-time and post-match. And against Ross County, we threw in a couple of acoustic tracks from Danny Kelly as a bonus, which was brilliant, wasn't it?
Oh, he's outstanding.
He's great. And we'll have him back in. Trust us. We definitely will have Danny back in. So my concern isn't the starting 11. I would actually stick, I'm going to go to some of the comments that are coming in. I would stick to the 11 that started against Ross County, as you've already said. You'd be feeling a bit aggrieved if you were dropped, if you were fit, if you started the game. Now, my change would be on the bench. If necessary, if possible, if the fitness is there, I would bring in both of the guys I'm mentioning. I don't know where Tommy Rogic is in terms of his fitness. I would expect Griffiths to be close to a first team berth, and what I mean by that is in the squad and have him on the bench. I know that then means you've got two strikers on the bench, Lawrence, but you've got that flexibility with the amount of subs that we have, right? And I just think that you might have Sorrow and you know, Welsh on the bench, and that's fine because they need game time as well, and I take that into account. But if you've got Taylor and you've got El Hamid on the bench, you can, you know, deconstruct or reconstruct rather that defence if necessary. You've got your Christie, you've got El Yunusi on the bench. There's your midfield, and then Rogic and Griffiths. Listen, I don't know how fit they are, but I just think if we get to that stage where they two are reintroduced into the first team squad and we're starting to fire on all cylinders, which hopefully we are after the Ross County game, Lawrence, that just adds another bit of quality.
I think definitely getting Griffiths in. You know, the times he was out, he's a fan's favourite. The lift, obviously there's no fans in the stadium now, but the lift he gives to the fans just no.
Every time last season going for his warm-up, we were all standing up and cheering him.
You know,
we're behind Lee Griffiths.
Oh, aye. You know, everybody knows he's had his illness problems. You know, we can readily identify with him as a player and a person. You know, and he's an absolute quality player, an absolute outstanding goal scorer. You're thinking, if you're a defender, I suppose, when you look at it, who are you going to be most scared of facing it there to? You know, you're going to go, I don't want to play Lee Griffiths. And actually, Jim Goodwin will be going, if Griffiths is 30 yards out and you give him a bit of space, I mean, you know, there's danger there, real danger. So I'm thinking, I'd get Griffiths onto the bench. How close Rogic is, and you know, Sorrow's waited for his chance. Has he really done anything to go? You're not even getting on the bench. Well, I come on and I thought, well, you done well, you done everything we wanted. You know, it's a tough one to manage a squad, isn't it? And it's going to come down to Neil, the arm round someday, and how he explains it to him. How if he does drop Sorrow in favour of Rogic, how that's explained to Sorrow, isn't it? It's.
I like the strong bench. I do like the strong bench, particularly when you're up against the tightly packed defences, because you need as many options as possible on that bench to obviously mix things up. And the creative players, are the ones that we're going to be focusing on. I think I'd make room for Griffiths on there if he's.
Oh, I'd make room for Griff. If Griffiths is 80% fit, you know, get him there, because it could just be 10 minutes you're looking for him, and you might just be looking for a free kick.
We need to reintroduce him at some point.
You might just want you get a free kick 30 yards out. You might want to make a quick sub and get Griff on.
Well, your fitness doesn't affect your technique.
Aye.
You know, so I think that's the only changes I would make in the lineup. I'd be looking at the bench. I was happy with it. Obviously, the starting lineup against Ross County, I'd be looking to start the same team as you've already suggested there, Lawrence, and I think I've convinced you to also bring Lee Griffiths onto the bench. Give us a prediction for St Mirren tomorrow night.
I think it's going to be tight. St Mirren have got the troubles. As long as the game goes ahead, shall we say, there isn't some kind of change in policy and the game being delayed because of coronavirus, I'm going to go 3-0.
3-0 Celtic. Right,
yep.
Excellent. A couple of goals for
Shane. A couple of late
Duffy.
goals, I think. 1-0 and then a couple of late goals.
Well, they're well organised. And there's so many teams in the league like that whereby they don't... I mean, listen, Ross County came out and attacked us, right? They came out and they played. And often what happens is you end up on a 5-0, the end of a 5-0 drubbing.
Yep.
So on the one hand, you say, well, fair play to you. It wasn't anti-football that Ross County played. Yep. And as Kevin Graham said yesterday, there were several chances in the first half. A lot of that was the in-swinging with the wind behind them and all that. Yeah, 3 defenders getting used to each other, plus a relatively new goalkeeper behind them. But it settled down and we were better in the second half. But yes, I just think, St Mirren won't play that game. Even though it's at home, they won't play that game against us.
I think maybe part of the reason Ross County played it's an early goal. But I think St Mirren, even if we get the early goal, I think they'll be going, look, even if we keep it, that's why I'm saying a couple of late goals for us. I think they'll go, if we can keep it to 1-0 with 20, 15 minutes to go, we've got a chance of nicking something. Mm-hmm. I think they know if they open up early, if we get an early goal and they open up early, they'll go, that's Ross County stuff. If we open up and we chase it at 1-0 down. So that's why I think, we'll get a goal first half. St Mirren will try and keep it tight until the last 20 or 15 minutes before leaving, and then they'll go, right, we can nick something now and they'll open up a bit, and that'll maybe leave a space for us to get another couple.
But 3-0, listen, I'd be happy. I'd be happy to go and get a result tomorrow night. It's one of the games, obviously, it's been shoehorned back into the fixture list after the Bolingoli debacle. Poor Bolingoli will not play for Celtic again. I thought he'd be back in at some point. Right, let's have a wee look at some of the comments coming in. Gary Doonan, first off the bat for Gary, and you're commenting on Facebook. Gary would pick the same team again. How could you argue with that, really? And we've got a message coming in from the House of Brewer Celtic Supporters Club on Facebook, so a big shout out to you as well. Sean Ross on YouTube, hail to yourself. And Joe Porter is looking for consistency, so keep the exact same 11, which, to be fair, I think we're already agreeing with you there, Joe. So we've got some brilliant comments. We'll try and work through as many of them as possible. Hail to Sean Spillane, who is commenting via YouTube. And via Facebook, if Celtic are a couple up at half-time, then rest Brown and give Turnbull a turn. This is going back to squad management.
Yep.
It's also going back to the quality of that bench, to be honest, because you've got players like Christie, El Yunusi, El Hamids and Turnbull already on there. And what I'm trying to say is, add more quality with Rogic and Griffiths when it's safe to do so, when they're fit enough to get them on there. But yeah, absolutely, Brown is going to need a few rests this season, and if you're a couple of goals up and you've got a player like Turnbull on the bench, bring him in. Definitely
gives you the opportunity, doesn't it? And I think everybody wants to see what Turnbull can do in a Celtic shirt when he's given the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
We've spent money, we've been after him, well documented. It broke down because of injury concerns. He's now at a club, kind of probably one of our longest attempts at signing a player. Yeah, it'd be good to get him on and see what he can contribute. Mm-hmm. See how he fits in with Callum, see how he fits in with Cham, see how those players play together.
Oh, it would be. It'd be good to see him, because we've seen him fleetingly in the hoops, so it would be good to see him getting half an hour, get a run out. And we will be here, we'll be watching it on the St Mirren PPV, which obviously originally the game was on Sky Sports, but we're having to pay extra to watch it on St Mirren PPV, which we'll do, and we'll bring all the comments to you from our panel, our matchday panel. Kevin Graham won't be joining us tomorrow night, but he is picking a team which I'm guessing is a 4 at the back, with Barkas, Frimpong, Duffy, Julian, Ayer and Taylor. Maybe Frimpong and Taylor are playing out wide, right and left. McGregor, Brown and Cham, Ayeti and Eddie. So obviously he's given James Forrest a rest.
Forrest, it's just Mr. Consistency, Mr. Celtic, isn't he? You know, ultra reliable. He's got goals in him. He can change a game. You know, he can change a game in seconds. It's pace. I like Wee Taylor. He's got a goal and a few assists in 4 games. You know, he's a player we need to develop. But just now, after the Ross County performance, I just wouldn't make the changes. You know what I think? Get a bit of consistency.
We've not had that this season, have we? Consistency of selection. We've not had that, particularly in defence.
Aye, it's something that, you know, you need to build your team on that, don't you? And what would you say to James Forrest you're getting dropped for? What's the reason? I don't think James is the kind of player that complaining when we run to papers or that, but is it going to give us more than Taylor? And I think with those 3 centre-halves, there's no slouches amongst them. His defensive duties aren't going to be huge on Forrest, although he willingly tracks back. Brown coming on to his best game, he sits, you know, he can sit back, let the centre-half spread, gives plenty of cover. I just wouldn't make a change. But, you know, Kevin's entitled to his opinion. He maybe was thinking, going, well, Taylor's a good start to the season. He's not made any mistakes for us in a Celtic jersey. He seems to be a bit another one that kind of comes in, and maybe it's because he's not Kieran Tierney. Or, you know, he's 22, 23. I don't think he's had howlers for us. You know, St Mirren's maybe somewhere that you could expect an easier run out for him. But, yeah.
I think I'd be surprised. But again, who knows? Who knows? And most of the comments that are coming in, Lawrence, are that we would keep the same starting 11. Sean McCrory 8 will line up the same, but I'd be ruthless enough to bring in Beaton for Julien, who was very shaky. I think Beaton showed signs for Israel during the international break that, you know, we probably consider him just as a centre-half now. He's obviously at that stage of his career where obviously, you know, you do see some players who start to regress in terms of their position on the pitch. I mean, Scott Brown's done it. He used to be a box-to-box midfield player. Beaton, I actually think, is good cover for centre-half, as is El Hamid. El Hamid is a class player.
Yeah.
But they're good cover for the centre-halves, aren't they?
I think Beaton, even defensive midfielder, he's still decent cover. I think we're really lucky to have a player of his quality that's been happy to just be a cover player for us. You know,
we're being told on Facebook that Turnbull always scores against St Mirren, so we could rest Brown and bring on Turnbull. But you know, it does happen though. Players do have particularly good records against certain sides, and but I don't think we'll start without Brown. I think it would be a case of try and get a couple of goals, and then give Turnbull some minutes.
I can't see he's dropping Brown. You know, he was coming in for a bit of stick. You know, people saying his legs are gone. Oh, this is it.
But it happens every season. We do hear that every season.
So he's answered him at Ross County, best game of the season. It's not. I don't think this is the time. You know, you need to build on it and just keep Brown in there. And Scott's old enough. I'm sure he'll say he would want to play every game, but he'll understand if, you know, we're 1 or 2 up, and he's the player to pick that we're going to give a wee rest to.
Well, there is a point here which, you know, I would definitely agree with. Before I go into that, Facebook hopes that Lawrence is a stalwart. Great show, lads. So I think they want to see more appearances from you. Lawrence, this is your second of the week, which is tremendous from my perspective. And you will definitely be here on a Tuesday for the Bulletin. That's your regular day, your regular fixture to come in and share your views. But when possible, you'll be in on the match days as well.
Yep. Cool.
Martin Devine, who's commenting via Twitter, would start Turnbull ahead of Encham. Big fan of Encham, but interested to see the chemistry there. That's the type of move that wouldn't surprise me. Not because Encham had a bad game against Ross County, but just to give the boy a game.
Yeah.
Give him some minutes.
He's used to playing. He's come to Celtic, he's going to want to play, isn't he? You're going to want to keep him happy and keep him fit. But as much as we need consistent defence, I think we need it in that midfield trio. Mm-hmm. And is it the time to break it just now to go, right, it's almost changed to go for change's sake. It's not because someone's done some bad. We want to try him because we want to give him minutes and see the chemistry. It's like, well, maybe it's when we're 2 up, because Lenny interestingly made earlier subs than he usually does. Mm-hmm. So it could be a change from Lenny now. It's happier with the quality, and he's going to be prepared to make earlier subs. I think that's maybe the time to give them the minutes, rather than, you know, if you put Turnbull on and the chemistry's not, then it goes bad. He's the boy to get subbed. It's
The whole
risky,
dynamic's different, isn't it?
Aye.
Yep, absolutely. I like this. This is from Lawrence Z. Reid via Twitter. Encham is a Rolls Royce, but you don't take a Rolls around the corner for chips, and that's the SPFL.
Perhaps, you know, but how long are we going to be in the SPFL for? You know, we need to get the best team in the park. We need to win our games because, you know, the goal's 10 in a row, you know, a 5th treble hopefully, and doing something in, hopefully the Europa this season, and having managed that team either, if Cham's going to remain long term, he's going to want to say that he's part of the team. Right? If he needs to be playing to be doing that. And if he's not going to be here long term to get the best price, again, he needs to be in a short window. I think you need to treat every team with respect. Jim Goodwin's a really good manager, setting out stall and tactically, and his teams are really well disciplined. So it's not. I mean, talking to McAvaney, did a game against Albion Rovers, and he was saying, I think it was Brady was giving him some tactics, and he was like, "What are you talking about? It's just Albion Rovers will go out and beat them." I don't think Scottish football is like that anymore, especially St Mirren. I think they are a really well drilled team, and tactically, I think you maybe do need your Rolls Royce players against a team that is tactically very sound, and they're very well organised, very well disciplined. So I'd say, well, actually, this isn't maybe, and it's not that Turnbull's unknown in SPFL. Obviously, he's done it with Motherwell, but there's a different pressure we're doing with Celtic, and St Mirren would set up differently against Motherwell than will against Celtic. So I think actually this is maybe a game that you need the Rolls Royce for. Get the early goals. You know, if we want to make changes then and have a look at players, brilliant. But Cham, you know, why would we buy players that has quality if they're not for the SPFL? You know, for Europe, but they need to be playing in the bread and butter stuff as don't they?
Yeah, it's the bread and
chip
butter
shop stuff.
Oh, the bread and butter. Well, you sometimes get bread and butter, don't you?
Yep.
Chip butty. Kevin Graham updates us to let us know that Rogic and Griffiths are not in the squad tomorrow. So yet another game goes past without those two guys, because I think having them in there with the likes of Christie and Turnbull and El Yunusi, you know, that's a strong bench, and I'm hoping we can get to that stage.
I'm hoping. I really want Griffiths in quicker. You know, he's had well documented illnesses, and I think part of that of his recovery, hopefully at Celtic, is getting him back to that level and being in and around and part of the first team squad. I don't know how unfit he is. You know, I'm not. Kind of COVID restricts where your information and stuff comes from, so I'm not bumping into people that have been to training or anything and seen the guys and be able to say, listen, he's no chance, or he's so far away. It's just now it's a bit of rumours for us.
It's a bit of catch-22, isn't it? Getting that game time is pivotal to becoming match fit.
Yep.
And players like Rogic are not going to be playing games. So that's a toughie. So obviously there's a level of fitness you can attain at training.
Yep.
And the conditioning and the diet and all that side of sports science. But then the game, that is the game changer when it comes to fitness, isn't it?
Well, it's the proof of the pudding, isn't it? You know, you can practice.
There's a lot of fish and chips references coming in here.
Yeah.
What kind
they
of
went
pudding?
from cars
What
and vehicles to food.
Here?
So, but that's it. It's, can you do it in the park? That's what the game's all about. Can you do it in the park?
Yeah.
There's no point, you know.
But you hear players getting 60 minutes in the tank, you know, match minutes, and that's
the difference.
Exactly.
It's the competitiveness.
Yes.
It's what brings out the champions spirit in people. You know, the fighting spirit. The thing that's made them elite athletes is that competitiveness. I'm sure they all have. Well, most of them try hard in training. You know, there are rumours, but some players maybe aren't great trainers.
You do get bad trainers, yeah. I think Mjalby was a bad trainer from all
Mjalby, I've heard Shred was pretty non-existent at training part, you know, putting the least effort, which is perhaps why we never saw him in a Celtic shirt. You know, I rarely saw him, was it 23 minutes or something?
Aye, very rarely.
But you get players like Reaper, who, you know, if it was 100 press-ups, Reaper would do 150. You know, he would make sure that without doubt, he couldn't be called into question on his training. He would be the best at everything, you know. We're doing 10 laps, I'm doing 15. you know, it's just, so the training part's a different environment, but when you go in the park playing games, that's when we want, I suppose it sorts the men from the boys, doesn't it?
It does. And I mean, the level, if you look at some of the players we've mentioned already, the level of, and we've not even mentioned McGregor, but McGregor, Forrest and Brown, in relation to the consistency, the amount of games over a sustained period of time, that comes down to the type of player you've just described there.
Yep.
The one who will take that a wee bit extra at training on a consistent basis.
How many games did Calmar Cup? 60 games,
there was
most minutes in Europe.
In the whole of Europe, yeah.
And you're looking back thinking, did he have a bad game last season? You know,
He becomes so consistent, he's almost a victim of his own success. You could give him the man of the match almost every week. But he becomes so consistent that people expect it, that, you know, he becomes wallpaper a lot of the time.
That's it. You just overlook it. McGregor, he just does his job. Yeah. He does it brilliantly every game.
Exactly.
you know, it's like...
For me, he's the most important player in that team at this moment in time. And I know the influence of the captain.
28?
I think McGregor is the most important player in that team for Celtic.
You know, Brown's 36 now. It wouldn't be surprise me if I've got another 10 years out of Cal McGregor.
I'd love if the 10 years were in a Celtic jersey.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
I wouldn't surprise me. And the things you hear about, as you touched training, he doesn't let standards drop. He's got that. He does the extra. He'll put the work in. He is, you know, he went down to Notts County, set that league alight as an attacking midfielder, was banging in goals. He's come back and has never really looked back, has he? His standards just never dropped. He's just...
he's consistent.
Most important player, yep, and probably could be for the next 10 years.
My only concern, and it's a concern I've got with Ryan Christie as well, actually, is that they'll have a look at the success of Kieran Tierney down south. I honestly believe that Tierney's outlook was changed under Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers has got a completely different outlook on the game, because it's all about, you know, we're all chess pieces in Brendan Rodgers' game, and Celtic were simply a chess piece in his game. And I think that when you're looking at the influence he had on certain players in that squad, Forrest was one of them, but I don't think he's going to leave. McGregor, Christie, Tierney, they might all have a different view. And we're maybe seeing it with Christie a wee bit. You know, there should be contract talks, there should be progress in relation to that. Or does he have one eye down south? He's looking at Rodgers, he's looking at Tierney. Is he thinking, I can make that step down there as well?
I think it's definitely you hear his dad talking about when him and Ryan were watching games at Celtic Park and saying that's the level you should aspire to. Yeah. And I think Rodgers was about that as well, you know, aspire to be the best. I think Rodgers has got it saying, well, you can't be the best if you stay at Celtic. You know, it's not possible. Actually, look where football's going. It's not going to be, how long are we going to be in a Scottish League for? You can't. I think Ryan's head has been turned, but he was a player that went out on loan, you know, that he was very close to leaving the club at one point, you know, to join in Lenny at Hibs. James and Callum, I think they're going to be outside of Callum's loan spell. I think they're going to be one club men. I don't think we'll lose them. So I think it was great that Rodgers wanted everybody to be the best they can, but I think he somehow also persuaded a few of them. But that's not Celtic. You can't be the best you can. If you stay here and you're kind of going, well, actually, I'm not 100% convinced that that's true, or even if it is true, as the manager at Celtic Football Club, it's not what you should be telling him.
Well, he comes in, Lawrence, he gets the buy-in, he changes the culture of the club. We've heard all of this, right? And, you know, and he gets the buy-in particularly of the younger element. He also got the buy-in of Brown, but there was several other senior players who were swiftly moved on or simply didn't play, like Chris Commons. So if you get the buy-in from, let's say, that group of players, Christie, McGregor, Forrest, Tierney, and then you do one, they're maybe then looking at you thinking to yourself, well, you know, his philosophy was what I bought into, and if he can leave Celtic, so can I. Yeah,
you've got to talk the talk and walk the walk, and not as in leaving, you know, he's given that philosophy, this is what it's going to be. But I don't think that was all Brendan Rodgers. Celtic realised there was a group of players that didn't do their best for Delia and were causing waves at the club and taking focus away what Celtic as a club and a football organisation was trying to achieve, which was part of the reason, you know, the manager, I think, had lost the dressing room. I lost a lot of senior pros. I think it's a big reason a lot of them didn't play again under Rodgers.
Absolutely. Because you're disrespecting the club, you're disrespecting the fans.
Yep.
They might just see it as, and I've heard Charlie Mulgrew speaking in interviews since then, which I actually think are very disrespectful, a lot of the comments he makes in relation to Ronnie Deila. Ronnie Deila was a very specific type of coach who I believe was a fantastic talent spotter and developer of youth talent. And I say youth, I don't mean 17 and 18, although he has proved, from his earliest days in Norway that he can do that. I think he could tap into the younger element of a changing room and he could, help them progress and develop them. And then you hear somebody like Charlie Mulgrew talking in not glowing terms about him. Well, that's why you never played again. Because although Rodgers allowed him to train at Celtic, he was out. Commons never kicked another ball for Celtic. Scott Brown could have been another casualty.
It was maybe a bit lucky, but I think that's Scott Brown was always a level of footballer above them. And
the influence of being a captain,
Yeah, he's a captain. And a lot of what you hear is rumours. I've never heard Brown come out and speak badly of Celtic or Celtic former
or
Celtic
any manager.
managers.
Yeah, he's never done it.
Like other former players have. You're kind of going, so maybe that's...
I think if you're still in the game, Lawrence, if you're still in the game, like Charlie Mulgrew is, you should never be criticising a manager like that. Show a wee bit of decorum and it lacks a bit of class.
There's a way to conduct yourself as a professional. And I would say that wasn't it. But, if that's Charlie's view on it, he's entitled to his opinion as I am, and he's a professional footballer and I'm not. But I'm just thinking, I'd rather somebody conducted herself like Scott Brown. Samaras, another player that nothing but the highest praise for Celtic.
Yeah.
Never slags him off. You could go, well, he was unlucky not to get another contract. He doesn't come out and you slag us off when he could.
No.
There's things criticising with the high fat diet that Ronnie brought in. You're going, well, if you're looking at science, it's a Paleolithic diet. Actually, that is what the humans need. The theory behind that is, over the evolution, we've not evolved for modern day foods like grains and oils, etc. And a lot of modern diseases and mental issues are related to that. Dale's actually done a lot of work in it, and not just him, but there's a scientific community out there going, this is what's right. Here are the facts behind it, here are the stats, and here's how this optimises human performance. So there's big body evidence, and this is how you optimise human performance. And they come out and go, it was a high-fat diet, fry-up's load of rubbish. What are you basing that on? Because you're not actually arguing with the science here. You've just went, that's fry-up rubbish. You should really tackle and address the science behind going, there's a big body of work saying this is how you optimise athletic performance, via diet. You can't just give it and go, rubbish, and then no address the science behind it, which is effectively what they're doing. And in doing that, they're kind of rubbishing Ronnie. And Jesus, he gave some... Remember that game against Inter Milan when he had his plane?
I know.
Jesus Christ.
The 3-8 game.
Aye, and you were going, what? And he says, that's the one time I got that team performing.
Yep.
They had to learn the system. That was another thing the players didn't like. Ronnie says, look, I'm not going to teach you a second system until you can play the first one right. Then once you've got that and so well drilled, it's second nature. You don't need to think about it. You just know it. Then we'll learn the second and the third. But then the players started rebelling against him. And you're kind of going, I think that gave us a glimpse of what Ronnie did with Celtic. That was the potential that could have hit.
That was the vision that he had, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, it's unfortunate, but I think Chris Commons, the first thing that I think of is I'm throwing the toys at the pram against Molde, and that's a shame because I seen virtually every goal he scored for Celtic, and he was a fabulous player for a spell. When I think of Charlie Mulgrew, I think walking off the park against Ajax, was it, in Europe, and you think, well, these are the memories I've got of these guys. Commons never looked in optimum fitness. Commons always seemed to be carrying a bit of weight. So you can't blame Ronnie Dyler for that. If you're a professional footballer, you make sure that even if it means bringing in your own personal trainer, that you shift the timber. Because obviously Dyler was all about 24-hour athletes. And if you're a stone overweight or whatever it may have been, you've got to sort it out.
Definitely. I mean, NFL teams monitor that diet, circadian rhythms, everything. They know everything about getting that individual to the peak of their human performance. And then it's the competitive performance that you can add on top of that. And Commons definitely carried weight. I think there's a new training thing out invented in Scotland by a girl, Diane Teo, called Game Fit. There's a lot of football teams now adopting this, and it's stuff that can be achieved in 30 minutes a day or less. And it's to do with, anaerobic capacity and the pace you work at. But you're thinking, as a professional footballer, if you're carrying extra weight, gone are the days of Charlie Tully when you could kind of get away with it. The science is out there.
Listen, Lawrence, I could have put Commons on a state of mind diet.
Could have put him on a chippy diet. Well, maybe he was on a chippy diet, I don't know. But he was carrying weight. We're slagging Morelos for the amount of weight he's carrying. I think everybody will recognise that it's not right for a professional athlete to be in that condition. Some of them can still perform, still score goals. The question is, was that their optimum?
This is it, because the margins are so fine, Lawrence, you're right. But when you look back, and I'm just about to read out a comment from Gary Doonan on Facebook in relation to Ronnie Deila. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Ronnie gave Ryan Christie, Chris Ayer, Callum McGregor and Kieran Tierney their debuts for Celtic. Yeah. He bought two of their players as well. So I think when you're looking at that in terms of a legacy, I'm happy with what Ronnie provided to us. And by the way, absolutely. And Gary, what Gary says as well, the fruits of Ronnie's work, especially at very young youth level, have still to come. And let's not forget that as well. Pity we lost a bit of that talent to Man City and Bayern Munich recently.
Yeah.
So obviously there's been a lot of things implemented that will still come to fruition.
Yeah, it was a structured club. I think Brendan's first season was unbelievable, but how many of those were his players and how many were Ronnie's players? And I think, the stuff that Ronnie put in, but we're definitely going to benefit for years to come. We talk about, you don't get one club men. The boys that he's given debuts to, or you don't get people actually becoming proper first teamers, not getting one or two games. He gave us proper first teamers. And even if we sell them, we sold Tierney for 25 million, you're kind of going, how often, when was the last time we sold a player we developed for a sizable fee? Now, it didn't even, if we sold somebody for 10 or 9, or I think
McGeady was the, and you're going back some time.
Yep.
But McGeady would have been the last one. Yep. I think we got a half decent fee for Maloney, but it wasn't in the same ballpark, when he went to Villa. But you're right, you've got £25 million for Tierney. McGregor, don't even talk to me about transferring him. Ayer, the fees that we've seen in the press for Ayer, and obviously Christie may or may not be, part of that revolving door. But they guys all got their debut under Ronnie Deila, so part of their, and don't forget as well, part of the development of Van Dijk, I know that Neil Lennon signed him, but part of his development was under Ronnie Deila.
Definitely. And I think the model that Delia's put in actually matches our business model as well, bleeding players. We realise not everyone's going to be happy, and Christie may be one of the ones whose head's been turned and wants to go. Tierney certainly was.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen with some of them.
Yeah.
But the structure that Delia put in has allowed us to do that and get decent fees for them again, and that fits within our business model, doesn't it? Where it's a footballing disaster not to make the group stages of the Champions League, but at least it's not a business disaster, and we're not putting the club in peril now because we have that football structure behind it that kind of matches the business goals.
Yeah,
we need both working in harmony, definitely. It's all right saying spend everything in players, and
no, you're right. But of course we do.
We know in the not too
distant past. Exactly.
Certain clubs have just went out
of business. They've gone out of business.
Out of existence.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, I think Richard Simpson is saying this tongue in cheek, but it is taking me on to my next point that I would like to cover. I'd play Anthony Stokes. Let's talk about Anthony Stokes. The news has broken that after 3 weeks at Livingston, he's off. Doesn't like playing on an AstroTurf parks. Sorry, I don't buy that. Is he a cautionary tale for some of the players that we've been speaking about over the last couple of weeks? Anthony Stokes, his career has fallen off a cliff since he left Hibs.
I think we can undoubtedly talented player. Maybe save Lennon's career as a manager before it really gets started down at Rugby Park. It's definitely, very few players going to greater things after Celtic, but even after that, he had a decent, Hibs are a big club. He had a chance there. I don't know what's happening with Stokes. That kind of talent surely still got to be in the feet. He's a goal scorer. He's a player that could grab a game by the scruff of the neck and drive a team on. His last cup final appearance.
I know.
What is going on with him or what's happening? I don't know. But you're looking and going. It's certainly.
You become
I don't
concerned,
think it's what
don't
you
you,
wish for.
You become concerned.
Definitely.
With a player like Tony Stokes.
Nobody would have wished for that, would you?
We know he's had personal troubles because he's appeared in court and his personal life's been splashed all over the press. But I do become concerned when I see such a demise of such a promising, talented footballer.
You'd have thought Stokes could have saw his career with Hibs, maybe even the Championship.
Where does he go now? Where does he go now?
It's like, what level is that? obviously, was it Livy? It doesn't like AstroTurf. There'd been talks about end up at K Park, but again, that's AstroTurf, isn't it? Where does he go? He's a goal scorer at Republic Island International. League winner.
The thing is, he might end up going to some nondescript team in the other side of the world. He disappears again. I just feel, I don't know him. I don't know Anthony Stokes, never spoken to him, never met him. I have no inside information about his personal life, just what everybody else sees in the press. But the stark reality is his career has not been fulfilled. His potential's not been fulfilled. He went to Hibs, he had a big fallout. We've learned about it in real time from Neil Lennon. He had a massive fallout over in Portugal. Since then, his career's done. And I'm thinking that Livingston was a lifeline for him.
Definitely. But as you say, we don't know. Personally, he's had his problems. He's maybe needing, I don't know, a coach, a personal coach.
A life coach?
Yeah, life coach, to put their arm around and go, look, Tony, this is what you're throwing away. What were you doing to get that level of performance that you hit with Celtic that you're not doing now? Mm-hmm. Does he want it?
Or what do you need to do? What do you need to do differently to regain it?
So if you can understand what you were doing then, you can work out what you're not doing now. But I suppose it's a state of mind. He's got to want it.
That's right.
Has his hunger gone? Is his genuine hunger for top level football gone? Is that why?
Has he got enough money in the bank not to care anymore? This concerns me. This concerns me. It really does.
Tony Stokes at Livingston.
Even that, and no disrespect to Livingston, because by the way, the bit of business they done, bringing a boy in from Queen of the South, developing him, selling him for $2 million.
Lovely, it's a great
brilliant
club.
And they've produced a lot of good players over the years.
Managed by a former Celt. McCarry signing.
Yep.
Gary Holt. Army.
He did.
Him and Justin Whittle. Mm-hmm. So Gary, another promising manager, isn't he? Hard to beat teams, but surely.
I always remember when we signed George Cadet, and the Celtic fans, I think it was Not The View, said normally if you'd heard we'd signed a cadet, you'd be thinking Gary Holt or Justin Whittle.
But it's
I'm serious.
Livy were a good club to give him a chance. I don't want to denigrate Livy. They're a good club.
It was a good platform.
Manager.
Even if it was 6 months down the line, Lawrence, and he showed a bit of form, I'm pretty sure it'd have been something. Yeah,
he gets me, but it could be that maybe his heart's just not in it. I don't know. It's something about Stokes. And listen, if he wants to, if he doesn't want it, that's fine. That's his decision. Maybe he's had enough of football. Maybe he's just went, I've made my money. That's it. And maybe we're going, poor Tony here, and going, listen, because you're worried about it. Tony Stokes was great to watch playing football.
Brilliant game. Brilliant. Kevin Graham just reminded us about the skill where he set up for us against Karagandhi. I mean, there's so many elements. There was a clip came up, I think it was Little Z on Twitter of what's his name, Pookie's debut at Tynecastle.
Yes.
What a bit of play.
Tony
that wee scoop over from the left.
To watch.
Stokes was brilliant. We don't know what's going on, and we're not having a go at him. We wish him all the best.
Definitely.
I hope he can get his career back on track.
Yeah, if that's what he wants, if that's where he wants with his career, I think that's where he needs to. What we're saying is he needs to sit and go, where do I want my career to go now? Doesn't he? He does need to go, right, do I still want top level football? Because surely he's still getting him in. You don't lose that kind of skill, do you?
See, when you looked in his career, just off the top of your head, Lawrence, under which manager did he have his best success?
Lenny.
Neil Lennon.
Without doubt, Lenny. It's...
Lennon's got that. He's got that in his locker. I don't think he gets as much credit because he's not as fashionable. I remember Danny McGrain said this to me one night, that he believed that Lennon didn't get the credit because he wasn't as fashionable as some of the other coaches.
What did they do with the Mowbray team? They won a great run in the league. Mm-hmm. Ross County obviously semi. We're a bit like, geez, what happened there? Bit an aberration. But he went on a great run with that team. They were players that were definitely underperforming, and Lenny turned them round. He does have that ability to make players walk taller, to be bigger, to be better. And you're right, he doesn't get that. He maybe picked the wrong club when he went to Bolton. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people said, well, that was Lenny's ambition. He wanted to manage at a higher level, and which he's entitled to want to do. But he's got the capability, and I think you're right, he doesn't. Perhaps it's the Scottish press are unrelentingly negative about Neil Lennon. Mm-hmm. And perhaps part of that is it gives us a perception of him, because what we hear is negative stories about, the back page snarling at Neil Lennon, snarling Lennon. They'll very rarely call him Neil. In fact, it's Snarlin Lennon, isn't it?
They have created a caricature.
It's a bogey man, isn't it?
Yeah, they have. And again, another player that Tony Stokes performed for was Stubbsy. I don't know if Stubbsy's going to get back into the game. I just love to see Stokes going to a club and it works for him.
You like to see him happy again because he gave us a lot of good memories, wouldn't you?
Exactly. And you'd hope at 32, right, that there's still a couple of years left in his legs, you know?
Aye. He's not a big heavy guy, is he? What's he?
Nah, he's
5'9" or something, 5'10".
Yep.
You know, he's not. So you think there would definitely be the games left there and goals in his boots. There's definitely
This is a boy that came through Arsenal as a kid, you know?
Arsenal, Falkirk, Sunderland, Celtic. Yep.
I remember him at Falkirk. I'm sure he scored a hat-trick against Dunfermline.
Yeah, we almost signed him there.
Dynamite. He was
He
dynamite.
was unbelievable. He was one of the hottest prospects
In fact,
at that time.
am I right in saying John Hughes was his manager at Falkirk?
Yes.
Yep.
Aye. And he was electric there, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. You know, you're like, who is this guy? Celtic wanted him, ended up going to Sunderland.
Yep.
His choice. Wish it came to us, but...
Was it Roy Keane who was in charge?
No, I think it was way before Keane, wasn't it? I'm sure.
Don't think Keane would have put up any of this. Anyway, left back, still something we need to talk about. We spoke yesterday to Kevin Graham, and the reports today is Alfie Doughty, 20 years of age, Charlton Athletic. Apparently he is, you know, if we bring in a player like that, Taylor's still your first choice?
I think so, yeah. Taylor's a few assists, 4 league games, few assists and a goal. Mm-hmm. He's not put a foot wrong this season. Yeah, he's got room to improve, but you know, he's still a young left back, and we need to improve players. Doughty comes in, he's one for the future. The thing is, it's such a big season for us, isn't it?
We were clearly after Aaron Hickey. We were after Aaron Hickey, and an offer was made, but obviously Bologna offered a lot more. Yeah. So we're maybe always looking for a player of that kind of age, you know, at that stage of their career, Lawrence, just as backup to
look what
to
Duffy's brought out to us at centre half. So is it that important season?
That's a seamless link onto the next point.
Right. Is it that kind of we should be looking for a left back just to get us through this season to do the quintuple
that's your Barry Douglas, isn't it? But then again,
is Barry over the level of Duffy? I would say that
no, but he's a stopgap.
But Duffy, I don't think you would ever describe as a soft
I'm talking
gap.
about Douglas rather than Duffy.
Yeah, but I'm saying we need a left back maybe of Duffy proportions, but I think we'd all be over the moon, wouldn't we?
Just last point on the left back. Gary asks if there's such a big need for another left back if we're playing 3-5-2. Well, people have been also thrown in Luke O'Connell. I'm going to be honest here. I've seen his performances for Celtic. I've not seen enough of him to pin my hat on him. You know, I don't. What is it? Kevin does pins of hats on horses.
Hats on the donkeys, yeah.
I don't know if I would do that with Luke O'Connell at this stage because I've not seen enough of him. I'm not writing him off.
Well, we've got a bit to go in the transfer window. English teams are sorting out the squads. I think there'll be options in it. It's if it's the right move. Luke O'Connell at left wing back. I've not seen a lot, but I thought he was more centre. More in the midfield than left wing back. I'd have thought, but perhaps he could come in. But if we could get someone of the Duffy level at left back, a left wing back, that would take us to a complete different level, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Now, any concerns around the dealing and how COVID-19 issues have been managed? Lawrence, there's been another story breaking today regarding Hamilton Academicals.
So let's see how it's been managed in Scotland. I think first day or second day back at training, Stevie Gerrard shares a car in controversial regulations with Beale. No discipline, no problem with that apparently. The next thing, I think Rangers deliberately played a game when they knew the COVID results went back. Friendly was against Accies. No problem for the football authorities, no problem for the Scottish Government. Aberdeen had their problems. There was a bit of stuff in the press, but it didn't look like they were going to get punished, either by the Scottish Government or the football authorities. Ball and goalie goes rogue. There was no hesitation in punishing Celtic. And it wasn't a public health issue. If it was, why did the St Mirren game go ahead when you've had actual players exposed to COVID? Because we knew ball and goalie was COVID-free at the time that Celtic were punished. So letting that game go ahead, where was the risk? So it was definitely for punishment. You know, at St Mirren, those players have been exposed to guys that have, and have trained with guys that have COVID, but the game still went ahead. Are Celtic getting treated a bit differently there? And I think Aberdeen were just dragged into the punishment because it happened so close to Celtic. Now, why didn't they go all the way back to other teams and punish it at the same time they punished Celtic? And what's the new issue? Is it on COVID?
I just read that the stadium's getting a deep clean as we speak. A couple of players apparently have been showing symptoms. I don't know if they've been positive tests, but I'll check on that. It just came through before we went live, Lawrence, but it drags on and drags on.
Well, I suppose football authorities are letting in, it's self-reporting. Mm-hmm. So Celtic bought a machine, so did Ross County for the testing. I think the other ones are sharing machines, are buying the services of a health organisation. So it's up to the clubs to report themselves. That system alone in Scottish football, can we rely on clubs to report things honestly to authorities? As that, you know, in the recent past, there's been cases where we know we can't even rely on contracts to go in properly. Mm-hmm. So would clubs report themselves as having COVID cases that could be to the detriment of the club? I'm going to say, well, are they run by trustworthy individuals that have a track record of
being honest?
Upholding
right.
regulations.
You're absolutely right, Lawrence. It all ties into that. Now, one last thought before we go. Primal Scream and Pierre Van Hooydonk got behind Shane Duffy. Now, that's better than Gary Breen, eh? That's better than Gary Breen, isn't it?
Number 6 is Gary Breen. I loved him playing for Ireland, but yeah, Big Pierre, Primal Scream.
Friends of the podcast, Primal Scream, you know.
I think we know the standard up here. If you speak to Van Dijk, he speaks highly. You know, of his time here, he doesn't denigrate the standard, and he's been here. And whose opinion is a centre half? Van Dijk, Gary Breen.
I think I'll take Big Virgils every day of the week, Lawrence. Now, it's been an absolute pleasure for you to join us once again in our State of Mind studios. Thank you to everyone who has commented on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. And all that's left for me to say, Lawrence, is thank you for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.